I lost $18,000 on a picture of an animated bull, and I brought my brother down with me. And you know why we held? Because we were promised an animated bear.
Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.
So talking about risk and creative, interesting things that you did, I think probably one of the more interesting, risky things you did was you actually were one of the people that started an NFT business.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting thing to watch and be a part of, being in the community, buying the NFTs and also losing money with the NFTs. We all lost money on NFTs. The people that made money on NFTs, I like comment please, because I
good job on
the market on that.
Knowing when to sell. I mean, I lost $18,000 on a picture of an animated bull, and I brought my brother down with me. And you know why we held? Because we were promised an animated bear.
Oh, and what about the Eagles?
I wanted to see what type of bear I got. I didn't even want to talk about the Eagles.
the Eagles too.
I hate all animals now. Truly. No, I'm kidding. So yeah.
That was such a funny time. I mean, I had lizards, I had raptors and
monkeys, everything.
Transitioning back to the NFTs on that subject, I mean, there was some definite things, we'll leave it at that happened, that you had, that like with the big group of people dealing with that, and people I don't think you could have made it through that unless you were that personality.
We had 19,000 people in our Discord, so it's just like the problem with NFTs is like it was like a digital gold rush, but you were bringing everybody up to this mint date and basically think about like truly the gold rush of everybody brushing shoulders and being arm in arm and they're all winning together and everything.
To the moon.
Yeah, up until the point that the mine is depleted, and then like what happens? So I think if NFTs ever do make a resurgence, they need to find a way to not have the community completely dissipate after mint day. Because if you have a bunch of original holders that were with the community this entire time, similar to like your base support as a business, because NFTs are a business, then once the mint day happens, it all changes hands. And now you have secondary customers who don't care about your mission, don't care about your motto or what your, purpose was or whatever. And now those are your new community. So you actually lose your core support and it's replaced with strangers. And then you're supposed to carry on from there.
Yeah. Well, and I also think the utility part of the whole thing was really where everything fell apart. People are like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah, it was basically like third graders like running for class president. You say you're going to swap the drinking fountain out with Coca-Cola. 100%. Like you make big promises and then figure out how to do it once you get the money, and normally you're under budget.
Yeah, and I was in like I think 5 different projects, 5 different Discords, and some of the things were laughable. They were saying like,
none of them survived. People were talking about they'd give you Super Bowl tickets
and all this stuff. I'm like,
meet the queen.
But I think the thing that was interesting about the NFTs as a whole, and what I really wish it had come back, I think it was a hack for micro investing to get your funds.
Startups.
But the thing is, these people just figured out a way to hack the system and do rug pulls and actually build something that was lasting. I think if you would have had some quality, and I think probably the greatest example of that is Gary Vee. He is still determined to add value to his shareholders and turn it into all the things he's been doing with that.
Yeah.
But I think it was I think it still has potential. I think it just needs to be approached differently.
Right. And it took the mental barriers off, because it was like, because NFTs were so new and so fresh and nobody had an upper hand on it because it was just like a brand new industry, people would come in and be like, I'm going to put 90 days into a project, and if we fully sell out, we'll make $1.2 million. But if you told them any other business, hey, do you guys want to write a book and see if we could, sell 1 million copies, or like we'll make an album and drop it and see if we could, get 1 million in sales. Nobody thought they could make $1 million in 3 months any other way. Yeah. But for some reason, this was so new and shiny. It was like, we could make $1 million in 3 months. So it got people to believe in themselves to like a ludicrous level, which I think ultimately was a cool thing.
Yes, until it pulled out the greed.
Yeah,
Because if the thing is, if they would have launched a book and sold 1 million copies, put on the next New York Times bestseller,
and then
there was functional things that came out of it.
NFT that survived, you had to plant roots in industries that were already developed, because the retail stuff, what they found out with the NFT sales is basically, the creator got residuals of every sale. So like the same 1% of crypto holders were like the entire market. And it was just a revolving door. So like as Bored Ape went up, it was the same people selling, buying. Yeah. And you think there's all this volume. and it's just repeated sales on the same items.
Which, transitioning into that, because we're definitely in some interesting territory when it comes to lessons learned, right? Look, actually, let's try it. Can you pull a lesson out for business owners from this that you feel like will be applicable? Because I don't see anybody starting an NFT business anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the lesson I would just say is don't get ahead of yourself to the point. Like, we were gonna hire a guy from Blizzard to like create a digital game. You know, we were like going and renting conference rooms out. We were talking about doing like public meetups and stuff like that. And this was like months before mint day. So in a way, we were focusing on the wrong things. Like, if we had just been head down one day at a time.
Yeah.
And it's truly like every business, they said like 2 weeks, you know, in NFT space was a year. You know, so when we were only at 1,000 members in 2 weeks, which if you get 1,000 follows on your Instagram in 2 weeks, you're crushing it. You get 1,000 members in your Discord in 2 weeks, they think you already failed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like the culture is always going to press you to go faster. I think that if we had started slow, when we were doing those Genesis auctions, which we were selling 2 characters a week based on the stories that were coming out.
Yeah.
Now you're writing a story, people fall in love with the characters, you sell them the character. That's a model to this day that would still work. Yeah. Like, if Game of Thrones was, you know, selling a character after like every season, or like at the end of the episode, any recurring show was selling characters or selling story elements, props and stuff, then now you're like giving it value through the story itself. But when you sell 100 characters in one shot, too much.
Well, the thing is, I think it was the epitome of greed and our microwave generation, right? Where everything has to happen immediately. They're like, instead of building something last. In gambling, I think as a whole, as entrepreneurs, I think we are gamblers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're respectable gamblers. It's just like, but everything you do is a gamble. I mean, it's double or nothing. And
I think so you take and you guys know who I'm talking to as you're watching this. So you get this idea, right? And you're like, okay, we can get to this many. Let's use the subscribers thing. We can get to 2,000 subscribers in a month, and get X amount of money, and this is going to come in a month, 2 months, 6 months, right? Doesn't happen. What do? You borrow money. You go in debt because we know it's going to happen. It doesn't happen again. You borrow money, and you just continue to double down on something that's clearly not showing any signs of growth instead of doubling down on stuff that actually grows.
Yeah,
and in hopes that you hit it. But the thing that's crazy to me is the odds. I think there's better odds in Las Vegas on some of the stuff than it comes to being an entrepreneur. When you're talking about 90% of businesses fail, and you start looking at breaking it down year by year of where the percentages are of businesses that fail, it's just like, why? But I think
we get too scared to quit things that are meant to be quit. Like, when it's time to quit, it's so hard for us to do it. And like, my example has always been, asking for help is literally like a hot air balloon, Like, if you're in a hot air balloon, you're 5 feet off the ground, you jump out, it's going to hurt, you're going to scuff your knee, but you're going to be all right, And that's the time when you should ask for help, because you get to 50, 100, 200 feet, like, you jumping out, it's going to be messy now.
Yeah.
But that's like what we'll do. We'll wait till the absolute last minute, because like, we think we're somehow being braver by staying it alone, which you're reducing your odds significantly of getting out of it.
Which, ironically enough, I think is a great segue, talking about Defeat 90 Collective. And part of what we're trying to build is, it's a free community, just so you guys know. And it's trying to fight that, because there's stats that have come out that basically say 80% of us as entrepreneurs don't tell anybody about our struggles, our problems, or any of those things before it's too late. And all of a sudden now you're in this place where like, how do you get out of this stuff? You get yourself in situations that could have been reversed. And so part of why we're doing this podcast, if you watch the first episode, I kind of went into detail about this, but is that we need to break through and create a community where we can actually have real, authentic conversations and not just brag about all the things we've done, but talk about the failures and talk about the things, the lessons we can learn, and get the help we need now until it's too late.
Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.